So we are joined by Celeste Leverton, who's the Associate Director and Sustainability Manager at Coutt Co. She currently works, she co-led through the B Corp certification process and now actively speaks to clients, investors, prospects and suppliers about implementing and improving their own sustainability strategies. So we have a presentation, we have a chat to do, which is going to be lovely, and we'll get to some questions at the end as well. So if we can give Celeste a very warm welcome, please. Right. So I'm positioning myself, not just in this chair, but through the whole of these 2 days, as something of the layperson. I'm in a room full of people who are experts in this particular field. I freely admit that I'm not, and I'm not going to pretend to be, but a lot of the time we are having to communicate these messages to people like me, the layperson, the people who don't understand the work that is going on, the reasons it's happening and the impacts it's hoped to have. So a lot of my questions, I'm afraid, will be stupid questions. I warn you that.
That's okay.
Good, that's good. So we'll start at a high level. Can you tell me what a certified B Corp is?
Great. Well, before I kick off, hi everyone. Lovely to see you all, and thank you for spending 30 minutes with me. As Neil alluded, we'll have time for Q&A at the end. So, yeah, please keep your questions. I think you can send them in as well, can't you?
Yes, I'll be picking up any that come online.
Yeah, and actually, I guess before I kick off about explaining a little bit more about B Corp and what that meant for us at Coutts, I just wanted to say this is a really special topic for me. Yeah, it was the first project I ever did at Coutts, and it's great seeing it come from infancy to then, 2-year-long project, and now, 1 year in, we're sort of being advocates in this space. So, yeah, it's really great that we can speak about it publicly. So I guess starting at the beginning, what is a B Corp, just so we're all clear? Super high level, it's about being a business that balances both purpose and profit. So you have to be a for-profit business, so it's not for charities, but it's about balancing, purpose and profit equally. What I was going to do before I get sort of stuck in was just go through a few slides, but I'm not sure if this is going to work. Oh, no.
Do we have the slides loaded, please?
No stress if not.
Sure they will appear momentarily. Well, just whilst that's beginning, for you, why were you personally so interested in taking on this project?
I think what's really exciting about Coutts becoming a B Corp and even just exploring the idea is, I think it defies a lot of odds. So, firstly, we're 330 years old as a bank, and there's myths that you can't retrofit a B Corp into a business. So I think hopefully that defies the first one. Secondly, obviously we're a service-based bank, and when B Corp was established, back in 2006, it was very much for product-based businesses, and it was about bringing a standardization into the industry. So I think it's great, obviously, that the service sector are coming through and becoming B Corps too. Also scale as well, right? We were the 4th largest B Corp at the time when we certified, so hopefully debunking that. And also we were a subsidiary of NatWest Group, so great that we were able to kind of lead on that. I think that's why it's really cool that we could do it.
But can you talk me through the process? Because I can imagine it being, are we having any joy with the slides?
Don't worry.
At present? I'm sure. I'll get a wave at some point. But can you talk me through the process? Because I can imagine it being phenomenally complicated.
Yeah, so for us, there were 2 things that we needed to do to become certified. So the first was we had to change our company charter. So that was our Articles of Association. And so our articles now read that we work in the interests of all stakeholders in society, so balancing both purpose and profit. We're not
Wrong deck.
So, so we balance both purpose and profit equally. So when we make decisions as a business, legally we have to think about all different stakeholders. So the governance processes behind it, we also have to balance the needs of the environment, the communities, our workforce and client base, and that's legally enshrined. And our board had to ratify that. So that was the first thing. The second thing was we had to score over 80 in our impact assessment. And so an impact assessment looks at 5 different areas. Firstly, governance. So who's in charge, who's making decisions, are they representative? When they do make decisions, do they consider sustainability? That was the first. Second, your workforce. So what do they look like? Are they representative? Are enough of them getting promoted? Are they being paid fairly? Are they getting the training that they need? Thirdly, community. So that looks a little bit at D&I as well, but more broadly, do you give back? Do you volunteer? Do you fundraise? And also community looks at your supply chain as well. Then, where am I at? Fourthly, looking at your client base. So do you treat them fairly? If they complain, how do you treat them? And also, what about the products that you have available to them? So are there sustainable options available? And lastly, the environment. So not only looking at your carbon footprint as a business, but also your water, waste management processes, etc. So, there are about 250 questions that you have to answer. And it's really in depth.
How long does it take to work through all of those questions? Because I guess that leaves fingerprints on every bit of the business.
So, for anyone in the room that's exploring B Corp, I say that you can do the assessment within a couple of hours, right? If you just sit down, unlock it, but those aren't going to be the perfect answers. So that's what we did. We thought, let's just answer it to the best of our ability, see where we score, and then we can spend time validating our answers afterwards. And I always say to people, if you do the impact assessment, it's a really good hygiene test on your business. You can see if there are holes. For us, as I said, we're 330 years old and we still learn things. So as soon as we took it, we realized we were over 80 and actually we might have a shot at becoming a B Corp, which was really exciting. Then we spent the next year collecting data so that we could confidently answer all the questions. Some of you who may have been through the process already will know that B Corp ask questions that perhaps you'd never even thought of. And so for us, it was, how do we collect this data, and how do we make sure we're doing enough to satisfy B Corp standards? So 2-year-long process. A year of data collection, and then once we submitted, we then spent 7 months verifying our answers with B Corp, and they wanted to know more information about answers we'd provided, and then we were lucky to certify.
I suppose the key question is always why. What were the motivations for doing it? Because not everyone is doing this yet, so why?
No, and that's a good question. So for us, there were a couple of motivations. The first was actually clients and investors, and actually our colleagues, are really interested in sustainability, right? And then interestingly, it was a client that suggested we became a B Corp in the first place. They were the one that introduced us to the assessment. So firstly, I think it was that intrigue, but also, as I mentioned before, that impact assessment is a really tangible way that you can track your sustainable progress through time. We're a bank, we like numbers, and so for us, it was a really good benchmarking exercise. And once we had our score, when we strategize moving forward, it gives us a really tangible roadmap of how we can get there and scoring associated along the way. We wanted to be able to track our progress. Obviously, clients and investors care about it. Also, access to the B Corp community. So, there are nearly 1,000 UK B Corps and 5,000 globally, and it's a great opportunity that we can collaborate with others and businesses that we perhaps would never have the opportunity to collaborate with before. So, we've done work with The Body Shop, Innocent Drinks, and completely different businesses that we can partner with together. And also, we're part of the B Finance working group, which I'm not sure if you've heard of, but what I think is really interesting is, so once you become a B Corp, there's the opportunity to join different working groups, and there's one for UK finance firms who are certified, and our aim is actually to encourage other finance firms to become B Corps. I think that's interesting. We're not in competition over who's a B Corp or who's not. Let's compete on the score instead. So I think it's a really great way that we can give back to the industry. And then,
well, I would think some of those things are results and eventualities that you could expect. I guess you knew you'd get those. Were there anything through the process that you learnt or gained that you weren't expecting?
So I think in terms of after we certified, what was really interesting was the internal response. And actually, I didn't think it would be as great as it was. And the amount of colleagues that wanted to be personally involved in the process of keeping our B Corp certification. So once you certify, that's not the end. You have to recertify every 3 years. So there was, big kind of calling from our employees saying, we want to get involved and what can we do to move the dial? And I was really surprised at that. And we did a big piece on how can we bake B Corp into BAU and make everyone feel like they can move the dial slightly. So that was the first thing. The second thing was also recruitment. So it's really great that I'm now hearing that B Corp is one of the main motivations for people wanting to work for us. I never thought it would happen so quickly, but if you want to be, the best in your industry, you want to have the best people, and the best people want to work for companies that care about more than making profit. And so it's been great that we've seen a real uptick in recruitment since.
So I will be the grit and the oyster for a moment, if I may, because everyone knows how difficult any kind of change management is. Every business, every employee has a million different things that is being fired into their inbox. We're trying to do this, we're trying to make these changes. There's so much. There's so much that everyone has to get their head around. Was there any pushback from people? How did you get people on board? Because this is something I imagine that everyone needs to be on board with.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Obviously, competing priorities and trying to get to the top of that priority list is always difficult. So there's a couple of things, right? Firstly, we were very transparent right from the beginning that we were seeking B Corp. We basically told the firm 2 years in advance. So it was a 2-year long embedding program. The first was just education. So why B Corp? What are the benefits, and why should Coutts become one? And so we got other interesting B Corps to come speak to us. So a good example was Toast Ale. I don't know if any of you know them. They're a really cool business. They use offcuts of bread that would normally go to waste, and they make beer out of it. And actually, they're one of our suppliers. And so it was really great having them come in to talk to us and talk about not only their B Corp journey, but why it mattered and how they align it to their corporate purpose. I also did a chocolate and purpose session, which was quite cool. We got Tony's Chocolonely to come talk to us and talk about supply chain issues with chocolate, but also cleverly sort of parallel it to our business and why purpose and sustainability is important. So firstly, I guess it's that education piece, but it was through bringing others who've been through the process themselves and showing those parallels and I guess showing them that we can be part of something bigger. That was the first. The second was, basically creating a B Corp checklist, outlining ways that people can move the dial. Because it's one thing, drumming up support and wanting to feel passionate about something, but staff were tangibly saying, what can I do to move the dial? So we made a checklist of lots of different ways, whether you're frontline facing, middle to back office, that you can support us.
Does that mean people can take ownership of it? If they've got a checklist, they feel they can do something. If it's something that's just happening in the business ether, if you like, was it having that that direct connection to the staff that you feel smoothed the process out a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's also about being transparent all the way through the process. Us becoming a B Corp isn't saying that we're perfect as a business. It's about being committed to improve, and it's unapologetically being transparent. So, we want to be as transparent as possible with our business too. That
was actually my next question, so thank you for that. The consistent approach, I imagine, you don't just get the certification and think, our work is done here, let's all go for a drink. How has the work continued after that came through?
Yeah, so anyone seeking B Corp will know that once you're certified, that is very much not the end, but if anything, it's the beginning of something great, right? So after we certified, I basically came up with a 5-point strategy of what to do next. So the first is recertification. As I alluded to, you have to recertify every 3 years, and so you need to make sure that you don't stand still as a business. So what can you do to keep increasing your B Corp score year on year? So that's the first thing, and we've been very open about wanting to reach 90 points. At the moment, we're 83.2. So we passed, which is great, but close to that 80, so hoping to upscale to 90. You also have to produce an annual impact report as well. So that was a big marketing piece, which is great, and you can read it. It came out a couple of months ago. So recertification is key. The second is clients. So you'll know Coutts, if you've heard of us, we have an amazing client base, both privately and commercially. And us becoming a B Corp, because we are different to other B Corp firms, I think has been quite reassuring to our client base. And actually, if Coutts can become a B Corp, why can't they? Or at least why can't they take sustainability a little bit more seriously? So we've been using a lot of our time just talking to clients about their own sustainable strategies and how they can use the B Corp impact assessment to help, right? There's a big kind of advocacy and client engagement piece. The third, which we've kind of spoken about, is that colleague engagement. So I can't be in every client conversation. So what can we do to upskill colleagues so that they can start having these conversations with clients? And fourthly, supply chain. So our business isn't just us, it's also our supply chain. And so what can we do to also help our suppliers become more sustainable? And broader than that, how can we partner with other B Corp businesses? And we've had some really exciting partnerships over the past year. Then lastly, which I've already spoken about, is how can we harness the B Corp community and bring about real positive systemic change? So yeah, a little bit busy.
Just a little, just a little. But as I guess a bank is always almost in the middle of a web in terms of it connects with so many different businesses, so many different suppliers. Do you feel it almost privileged in that position that you can have that impact on so many people?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. So for us, kind of interesting fact. So we changed our articles of association, but as I alluded to before, when we were going through the B Corp certification process, we were actually already over the 80 pass mark needed. And so I think that's really exciting because we'd already been on a really big sustainability journey over the past 5 years internally, but we hadn't had the confidence to start speaking externally. And so what I think B Corp did was it gave us that confidence and credibility to go out to the market and start having these conversations. It's all very well saying, hey, we're taking sustainability seriously, but we wanted something credible and well regarded that we could point to give us that confidence. So yeah, definitely say it's one of the benefits since.
I guess there's a big difference between, because I'm sure every business wants to trumpet their credentials, don't they? Some want to do it just for fashionable reasons, for marketing reasons. For you, is it taking it further and actually making a tangible difference within the business and the impact the business has?
Yeah, I think it was wanting to have that credibility when talking externally, for sure. But also, as I've alluded to earlier, B Corp's a really good framework. And for us, we've got a B Corp check. So every decision that we make next to return on equity and our bottom line, we look at whether a business decision is going to positively or negatively impact B Corp. So we use it really as that litmus test and to check whether our decision making is sustainable or not. So it's a really useful framework.
So let's get constructive. For anyone who's here or at home who is thinking on embarking on that journey, I'm sure you've got an awful lot of advice you'd like to impart. We have about 12 and a half minutes, so we might have to keep it relatively brief. But what advice would you give them if they're wanting to start that journey or even start thinking about how to make that journey?
Yeah, so I guess, I would just say get stuck in. So create your account on the B Corp intranet and, I would just do the assessment. As I said before, we sat down and we did it within 3 hours. Obviously, it won't be perfect and you'll have to revalidate your answers after. But I think once you do that assessment, it's a really great hygiene check on your business. So you can see if there are any holes and where you need to address further. But I guess taking it one step further, it's a really good competitor analysis exercise that you can do too. Once you're a certified B Corp, you can put your impact assessment online. So you can read it now if you like. And you can also see everyone's breakdown in scores. So it's a really good benchmark. So for us, there are great finance firms that are already certified, Lombard Odier, Triodos. We could see quite clearly where we were doing well and where we wanted to focus our efforts moving forward. So yeah, I'd say just do it. And depending on where you score, you can then decide on your next steps. So if you're over that 80 pass mark, then you can decide whether B Corp's a good fit for your business or not. I guess it's worth mentioning that only 5% of businesses that use that impact assessment actually go on to become B Corps. It's probably the best free consulting tool out there. So I'd say just give it a go. And then I would say, if you're lower than that 80 pass mark, then just spend the next couple of years looking at your strategy and whether you can build in some of those points taken from the impact assessment moving forward and almost create a roadmap of how you're going to get to B Corp. I would kind of warn though, B Corp should be part of your process. It shouldn't be your North Star and then once you've got it, that's it. I think it's a validation that you're already moving in the right direction and taking sustainability seriously. So I would definitely say, it is overwhelming as an assessment. I don't want to detract from the fact that it's a lot of work, but I think if you can just sit down, do it in one sitting, it fits to your business model. So you can then revisit your answers and check your data. But I think that's probably the most sensible approach. And if you are over that 80 pass mark and you do want to become a B Corp, my biggest advice would be try and get as far over 80 as possible, because once you go through that verification stage, you can lose points. Reason being that some of the questions are quite subjective, and so you can interpret them in different ways. So just make sure you've got that buffer, just so you can confidently pass.
We'll go to questions in just a moment, but I have one last one for you.
Okay.
That is the reflective one, and that is if you were doing it all over again,
Yeah.
what would you do differently?
Okay, so this is quite a funny one. So we were so confident that we were going to certify on a certain date, and I think we underestimated how long that verification process would be with B Corp. So we were assured that we would get certified on the 31st of March. So we did a countdown and got all of our internal stakeholders excited, our board. And yeah, as I alluded to, our verification process took 7 months, not 3. So our countdown just kept increasing, and so we had to keep adding a month and a month and a month.
So the countdown was actually going up at one point.
Yeah. So I would definitely say manage your stakeholders, and I would be very conservative in terms of timelines. What was great for us was that through having a delayed launch, it actually gave us more time to embed B Corp in the business and getting people kind of itching about, when can I tell my clients? It's great, but I would say, be very conservative and manage expectations really carefully, because it can take a lot longer than you think. That'd probably be my...
Well, I have plenty more questions, but I'm sure yours would be far more interesting. So if I can throw to the room, there's a gentleman there, if we can get a microphone from the back, please.
He's your hero.
There he is. He is. You are my hero for this session. There's nothing worse when you go to questions and no one puts the hand up.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Really, really interesting. I think one of the big moves the business can do, and I think widely agreed, is how much they can influence policy. So I guess raise the baselines within your industry. So are you working with the FCA or other bodies? And if not, why not? Because obviously you're collaborating with lots of other people, but are you going out there looking to kind of raise that baseline within the industry? Because obviously it's something really strong from such a big bank.
Yeah, so great question. So as part of being, as a member of B Finance, which is the kind of, the working group for finance firms that are B Corps, we're sort of working together to be a collective to move policy change. So there's something called the Better Business Act, which I'm not sure if you've heard of, through B Corp, which is trying to do just that, bring about real kind of policy change and a lot more commitment from business and the industry. For us, it's more of a collective action piece. From the Coutts perspective, however, NatWest Group are doing a lot in this space as well. Of course, we're one of the many brands that sit beneath it. But yeah, I guess the biggest sort of systemic change that we're trying to push is trying to bring other companies into B Corp so that we can obviously be a bigger body to influence.
Thank you very much. We have a gentleman at the back there. His hand's up.
All right. Thank you very much, Celeste. All right. I would like to know, how much did it cost you financially to become B Corp certified? And also in terms of workload, how much did it cost? And second question would be, what are the tangible benefits? Can you quantify it? And finally, did you attract better talent since you are a B Corp certified bank?
Okay, lots of
Thank you.
questions. I've got to try and remember them all now.
We'll start with the first one.
Okay, so cost. It really depends on the size of your business. So it's scaled appropriately. I think for us, okay, don't quote me on the numbers. I'll probably get in trouble for saying, but...
Let's do ballpark, that's fine.
Yeah, I think around 40K, but if you think we're the 4th largest, it would obviously be scaled much lower. So hopefully that's helpful. I guess what I find really interesting from talking to other clients who are exploring B Corp is it's not necessarily the cost of becoming a B Corp that's sort of impacts your resourcing. It's actually time, to the point that you just made. So, the way that we were operating, there was 2 full-time headcount just leading B Corp, right? But you have to obviously think about scale. But yeah, there's a lot of people that now have it embedded into their role. So I would say to anyone that's considering B Corp, it's going to be, probably half a headcount throughout time, because once you become B Corp certified, obviously that's not the end of the road, and you have to recertify every 3 years and produce your annual statement. So I'd say probably the biggest cost to a business is actually not the annual fee, it's the time that's required. So that was the first question. What was the second one?
Second question, what was it, the tangible benefits?
Yeah, so I think what's exciting about B Corp is, for us actually, it's just us signalling that we're serious about sustainability. And it's a really credible way that we can talk to our clients and prospective clients about being values aligned. And yeah, I want to stress, we're not saying we're perfect, we're committed to taking it seriously and committed to improve. But I guess one of the tangible benefits has been, clients being very open about how, pleased that they are that we are taking it seriously. And in some cases, it's led to client retention, where clients have been very vocal and said, if you don't take sustainability seriously, we're going to vote with our feet and go elsewhere. And since we've become B Corp, it's sort of satisfied that, and it's helped sort of signal that we are serious. So yeah, I guess that's the first piece. And yeah, I guess the point that you made with recruitment, it's been amazing that we've obviously cited, B Corp's been cited as one of the reasons that people want to work for us. I can't obviously attest to whether they're good hires or not, but I'd assume that they are. If they care about purpose, I'd hope that they are. What was the third question?
I think there was two, was there? Yeah. Okay. Any other questions in the room? There's a lady at the front, if we can get the microphone down here. We've got time for about one more question. Thank you.
I had two short questions. The first one was regarding your choice to move to B Corp. What was, in terms of the time and the situation, what kind of pushed you all to make the choice to turn into a B Corp and push for that? And the second one is regarding working on maintaining the B Corp certification. Have you left the responsibility of that to all the employees, or are there specific employees who are focusing on that?
Cool. So I guess why B Corp versus other options? We thought B Corp was probably the best in the market. It looks at your entire business operations and also your supply chain. There's some great certifications out there, but nothing quite as all-encompassing as B Corp. And also some of the benefits I mentioned earlier, gives us access to the B Corp community that we possibly wouldn't have with other certifications. For time to embed, we were really lucky that a client recommended B Corp to us, and our CEO was absolutely excited about the process from day one. So it made decision-making to become a B Corp pretty fast. As I mentioned, we sat the impact assessment, realised we were over 80, and then we, at that point, just decided to go full steam ahead. So I'd say it's pretty quick in terms of transition and whether it was possible or not. And there's also the point, right? There's a point about inaction versus action, and actually the argument that we had with our board, the argument that we put forward was, if we don't move now, the price of actually not moving may be greater, and why not be a front runner and try and shape the direction of travel and be part of those conversations? So, it's a really compelling case, and luckily that meant we could go full steam ahead. In terms of your second question, so...
regarding the responsibility.
Oh yeah, whether it's BAU or, a handful of individuals. So, as I mentioned before, a lot of our employees wanted to get involved. So what I did was create a beekeepers working group. So volunteers from the business were part of the working group that essentially we look at the impact assessment, we look line by line, I split them per impact area, and we look at where we can increase our score and then where we could lose points as well, and create a strategy over the next kind of 3 years of where we want to see improvement. So that's more targeted, but still very grassroots in feel, because it's sort of employees from broad areas of the business. But in terms of decision making, as I mentioned before, right at the top, we have that B Corp check. So whenever decisions are being made, you always have to consider it against B Corp scoring. Does that help?
Yes, it does.
It's a bit of both.
Lovely. Thank you very much indeed for your questions, everybody. Well, I think we can safely say there's an awful lot to take away from this, whether you're practically thinking it yourself or wanting to know more about it in the future. Celeste, thank you so much for your time.
Pleasure.
Thank you for your insight. And a warm round of applause for her, please.